When it comes to empty and our array v2, there's multiple ways to approach it, but just to demonstrate them in action, I'm just going to create a cut with Boxcutter, shift it to live, and then press Q and go into array. And so right now we're adjusting this with array. If I were to press E, we're actually exiting this with an empty, as it says via the notification. If we click and apply, we see that there's now an empty at the end location. We can actually move this empty around, go vertical with it, and all sorts of things, but we can also rotate it in order to adjust what's happening in between as far as the count, because it's connected with a bunch of drivers. At the time it was created, I actually wanted something a little bit more traditional that was actually working with the object system, even though I found this one to be kind of an endearing version that's really cool with the whole driver, getting them in between. Another way to approach it is with our new system of Shift-D to actually set it. So we drew a shape, and I'm just pressing Q and choose an array, and we'll just put an array on this. But this time I'm actually going to press Shift-D to exit with a regular driver target. And we see with this that there's no magic when we rotate it. It actually just rotates the whole empty, but we're also able to scale it, and all the pieces will sequentially grow in accordance with, I guess, some sort of matrix calculation. But one of the things I like using it for is actually getting really precise with layering things up. I mean, we could have done it with the other one. However, there's all this extra fluff to it that just makes it a little bit more daunting. And sometimes I don't need a driver. I just need a simple object target like we have in this case, where basically our array has an object offset. So in short, that's basically what the true empty target support is all about. Instead of having it have a driven system, there's one where it just sets an empty to the object field of the array, so you can adjust it after the fact in the form of an object mode transformation rather than having to go inside array all over again. Keep in mind, of course, that once you go inside array, that the empty is removed and you're back to where you started as far as dealing with it. So we will need to deal with the resume capabilities as far as allowing you to go back and keep your empty as a locked state or something, but that's always something worth contemplating. So another improvement that was had was with the ability to resume from multiple axes, or its ability to resume when jumping from array to array. So to show this in action, we're just going to draw a box, shift it to live using an older version of Boxcutter and HardOps, and we'll just add an array. And let's just press V to jump to 3D. We'll press A to add a second array, and we'll just make it a grid array. And so now let's jump in and go in and make adjustments. We see that we're able to adjust it on the correct axis for the first one. However, if we jump to the second one, we see that we're not actually adjusting it on the correct axis, which results in a rather strange experience. This actually will cause you to have to press X multiple times in order to get it back on the correct axis, and then you can move it as you would normally expect. This is something that we wanted to improve in this latest update. So if I minimize that version of Blender and we go into the current where we're using the latest version, we bring out a box, shift it to live, and let's go inside array, do the same thing as before where we basically array. We can press V to use 3D mode. We can press A to add a second array where we're able to scroll and choose how many we have in between. Click to apply, and then from here let's go back into array. So we see that we're able to extend and subtract on the array like normal. We can move the mouse and it behaves as you would expect. If we press Control and we scroll, we see that now on the other axes that is now behaving as you would expect. So just letting you know that even the micro behaviors are things that we care about immensely, and just letting you know that there's been improvements that's been had with the array v2 in this update as far as having it resume better when jumping from array to array. When it comes to array v2, we have multiple interface methods for users to interact with. If we press Q and we choose array, we can of course begin moving the mouse in order to interact with it in what we call fast mode. But if we press tab, we see that the UI now expands out in order to allow you into the .ui. From here, we could shift scroll over parameters to make fine adjustments. We can roll in a unshifted manner in order to move in a larger increment. But we also added an option at the top where basically you can roll between the multiple arrays and also adjust them individually. This was something that was done in the previous version, but I believe I forgot to mention it. Of course, there's also an option for you to be able to click and exit with an empty, which will leave you with empties that you're able to adjust after the fact. We still need to add support for true empties, but just letting you know in the event that you want to control it with the previous empty system that I was showcasing, where you can actually rotate the empty and adjust the count and things like that, as well as spring it out and give it more quantity if needed, depending on what you're going for. That is of course available inside the .ui as well. Even in older versions of HardOps, you can go under the HardOps logo and the star in order to choose what type of array you actually begin using via the opt-in. So I'm going to choose the 3D version of array, and we'll just create a box cut and bring it in. And let's look at this from the side. So now that we're starting our array in 3D mode and we're looking at it from a flat orthographic mode, whenever we start array, we see that it lets us work in 3D, but it shows this notification saying that ortho view is not available, which is actually inaccurate. As we see in this case, ortho view is actually working, and we're able to use 3D with our movement in order to get the array result that we want. In fact, we could even press X in order to change the axis in case it's not moving with our mouse movement to get a grid array, and we see that we were able to get the result. However, the ortho side view not available, still displaying. So this was something that really was more of a message error than it was a programming error. So this is something that we also resolved. So showing the same example, we'll press Alt V, make our view HQ just so we see what we're doing. And we press Q and we go into array. We see that we're able to add our array. There's no notification for it. We can press A, change our axis in order to add one, and perform the same maneuver just as easily without any pesky notification telling us what we can and can't do.